Hey Orange, guess what?
What?
Pac-Man... Welcome to the 4th episode of Pac-Palooza. This week I'll have a video dedicated to the Great Yellow One every day in anticipation for the rise and fall of Pac-Man. So everyone knows there's a Nintendo Direct today. In fact, it's only a few hours away, but we all need our fix of the Great Yellow One, and what better way to do so than go over one of the most bizarre and obscure Pac-Man games of all time. But before I start the video, thank you to Leon for recording this, means the world to me. So let's begin. So if you don't know the story of Baby Pac-Man, let me tell you. So essentially what happened is Bally Midway was given the rights to distribute Pac-Man in North America. What they weren't given the rights to do was make sequels to Pac-Man, but they did anyway. There's just something about companies getting licensed to distribute arcade games in the 80s and then breaching the contract. We saw Falcon do this with Crazy Kong, and now we had Bally Midway do this. The sequels were, of course, Miss Pac-Man, which is considered better than Pac-Man pretty much unanimously and had a major impact on pop culture. Junior Pac-Man, which it's a bit divisive. It's a weird kind of game where it's like Pac-Man, but the mazes are much larger and they scroll, and the scrolling aspect was really divisive about that game. There was Professor Pac-Man, which was a trivia game, and then we have Baby Pac-Man. So looking at Baby Pac-Man itself, it's a very interesting and bizarre game to say the least. What this is essentially a video game pinball hybrid. The gameplay is very confusing, but let me just kind of figure out what this game is like. This is actually my pet human playing it. The arcade didn't allow gators, but you're supposed to spell out Pac-Man. That way you can get power pellets in the video game portion and get a higher score. So the objective is to get a high score, and I gotta admit, I'm oddly enough not the biggest pinball fanatic despite me loving Waluigi Pinball, but let's talk about the video game portion. So looking at the video game portion of Baby Pac-Man, you can tell this was made from the ground up. With Miss Pac-Man and Junior Pac-Man, those were derivatives of Pac-Man, but this is brand new, made from the ground up, and you can easily see that and be able to tell the difference with the graphics. So looking at the graphics, it oddly enough looks more like a ColecoVision or Atari 5200 version of Pac-Man than arcade game. So the graphics are disappointing. The game is also extremely challenging, not just because of the lack of power pellets unless you earn them in the pinball portion, but because there are no warp tunnels unless you want to go the pinball portion. So what you can do is you go down the tunnel to the pinball portion of the game and you try to spell out Pac-Man. That's what I was able to understand from the objective. The game is very confusing to say the least, but then you go back to the video game portion to get more points and it goes on from there. It's a very interesting concept to say the least. I'm not the best at pinball or Pac-Man, so please excuse my really bad gameplay or my pet humans, but what do I think of Baby Pac-Man? So the game is very bizarre to say the least. With pinball games, I feel like you have to play them in person to get the full experience. I found the game to be a novelty, but honestly, I would much rather play Miss Pac-Man, regular Pac-Man, or perhaps even Junior Pac-Man than Baby Pac-Man simply because they're more familiar to me. But needless to say, Baby Pac-Man is still pretty cool, but remains a novelty. But what do you guys think? Have you played Baby Pac-Man? Let me know in the comments, and as always, keep calm and waka on.